Hi, welcome to my knitting podcast. I'm Sarah, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. I've got lots of stuff to talk to you about this episode, and I'll start with what I'm wearing, which is a bit of a sad story. It's the Arboreal sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and I made it a few years ago in 2020. I finished it in sort of autumn of 2020. And I made it for my grandmother. I had visited her after finishing my own Arboreal sweater. And she liked it so much that she asked if I would make her one in her colors, which were black and red. Mine was in two different greens out of Rowan felted tweed, which I can put a picture in here. So I agreed to make her a jumper, and I got the wool from what was my local yarn shop at the time, which was the Arboreal yarn shop in Brooklyn, and I knit her this jumper to her measurements, and she loved it. She passed away quite recently, but when I was at the funeral, everyone was seeing if there were sentimental things that they could keep of hers, and this was one of the only things that I wanted. So I'm really happy to have it back. It really reminds me of her. And she was a huge knitter, extremely talented, wonderful woman. And I was always very happy and proud that she wore this jumper that I made her so often. She basically never took it off in the winter times because she never knit for herself. And it's just really nice to have it back, even though it's a bit weird to reclaim a gift that you've made for someone. And it fits me beautifully. So yeah, I have this so that I can think of her whenever I wear it. And it's nice to see some knitting that I did 3 years ago. I was pretty good 3 years ago. It's really nice. It's not cropped, although I have it tucked into a skirt. If you can see, it's about this long. I'll tuck it back in. And yeah, the yarn is from Neighborhood Fiber Co., which is a yarn company that I really loved at the time. I do still like their yarn a lot, but I get an allergic reaction when I work with it. Although they have since changed their dye, I think. They started doing all organic. I don't know if that would make a difference with my reaction. The skin would peel off of my fingers. It's actually happening now, so it looks a bit like that. But I managed to muscle through, and yeah, so I don't remember what the colors are, but I think that I made a project page on Ravelry that was quite thorough in case you're interested. And so yeah, it's a bit of a memento for me now. And there were a number of people in the family who wanted it, but everyone agreed that it was rightfully mine because I had made it. But a lot of people said, oh, if you ever get sick of it, send it over. And I will, if that ever happens. So yeah, this is what I'm wearing today, an old jumper with a bit of a sadder story, but still very, I don't know, it's nice to have it back. I feel like I've got a little piece of her, and I think that she would want that. I do have a jumper that she made for me, and I'll show you. It's in the States. I'll show you it when I'm back there. It's huge, and it's cabled, and it's amazing. So I'll obviously also keep wearing that jumper. So a lot of my knitting that I have to show you that isn't on the One Big Project was done while I was in England at the funeral. And so it's a bit of a weird one. I've been really feeling the small projects recently, things that are knit in pieces. And I've been knitting a lot with unspun wool. I think because it's gotten a bit colder, it's feeling more fun to knit with the warmer hand feel wool. So I'll show you my first finished object. It is the Storm Hood by Ailbiona, and it looks like this. I knit it out of knitted and yarn held double in the color Skostra. It's this like very, very deep, dark, rich green. And I think it's mixed with some gray. It's honestly one of the most beautiful colors that I've interacted with. Although it really stained my hands when I was knitting with it. And I basically followed the pattern exactly. Except I think that she wants you to do like garter stitch at the top. But I didn't do that, I just did continued in stockinette. Yeah, it's got this rib detail around the face. I didn't do the flared neck version, but I think I will do that if I make this again. And I love it. I just think it's so fun and cool. Here's what it looks like. Yeah, I mean, no notes, it's amazing. You can have your chin out, you can have your chin in. If you get tired of wearing it as a hood, you can push it back and it's like a cowl. And there's instructions in the pattern to adapt this as an add-on to a jumper. So they make it quite easy for you to just put a hood on anything. Although I think like with the flared neck version, you could put it under a coat and then have it as like a hood and a coat, and I think that would be so nice. But I love this thing. I said in a previous episode that I wanted to knit 2 more of these for one friend and one friend of a friend, and I still want that. And I still am planning on doing that. So yeah, love this. I think it's amazing. And after the ribbing at the bottom, it went really fast, but the ribbing at the bottom took forever. So I feel like I should, next time I make it, I would modify it to be top down, because just a bit less stressful with the yarn management, I guess. Yeah, but really nice. It took me 83 grams of Nutagen to make this. I have a small head, but I think I made the medium size because I don't know if this is going to be a gift or not, because I think I'll make 3 and then let the 2 other people choose which ones they want. But it's beautiful. So that's my finished object. That's my only finished object. I'll show you my big project that is still not finished. It's the Nutagen Colorwork, all over Colorwork sort of freeform jumper. Here it is. I'm working on the sleeves as I was last time I spoke with you. This is the first sleeve. It's not done, but I wanted to stop here and start working on the second sleeve because I'm using like scraps of Nutagen and like the lucky charms that they do. So there's an option for the Patreon members where you can buy like 100 grams of random stuff and the parts where the colors mix together. And when I was a member, would always buy those, and I loved them. So mostly that is what this jumper is made out of, like the odds and ends and a little bit of some of the colors that I've bought a lot of and a little bit of colors that I would never have bought, and sort of blending them all together. So I have sort of unpredictable quantities of a lot of them. So I wanted to make the sleeves sort of match. They're not perfect, perfectly matching, as you can see when I hold them up, but you know, it doesn't matter. These sleeves take so long. It takes me 30 minutes to knit each little repeat that's 3 rows, because it has very little drape, and I can't put much tension on the yarn. I have to rotate the project sort of every half round, which is just quite fiddly because you're always going like this, and then the yarn's getting caught, and then you have to carefully disentangle the yarn. So it is a labor of love, I'll say that. I think that it's really beautiful though. I kind of can't believe that I actually made this. And in retrospect, it is my first all-over colorwork jumper, which I didn't even think of when I was knitting it. I do think that this will be a gift from my dad, which means that I need to go back, undo the ribbing at the bottom and add some length. Maybe add 4 repeats to the bottom. I've really wanted to get this done, but it's such a time investment. So like, to put it into context, this sleeve, half sleeve that I've done so far is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rounds. So that's like 6.5 hours of knitting on this sleeve, and that's focused knitting. I'm having a lot of fun blending the colors, but to be honest, the second sleeve is sort of the least fun place to be, trying to make it match, failing. And oftentimes I don't have the right yarn anymore because I've used it all. So just trying to like figure something out that will work, which is why I've ended up with this orangey section here that isn't in the body or in the other sleeve. But it'll be beautiful when it's finished. I think I've shown you this on enough times, but should I put it on again? I'll put it on again. The pattern is the Semper sweater. It's based on the Semper sweater by the Knit Purl girl. Ooh, it's warm. So this is sort of a new setup. I have no idea how much you can see of my body, but here. It would be good if my camera setup was so that I had some sort of way to see what was being recorded, but I don't. So, here's what it looks like on. I hope that you managed to get a good enough look. I dropped a couple stitches, but they're not going anywhere. It's gonna be very warm. I'm giving this to my dad, and he's like a person who gets cold quite easily. One of the reasons that I decided in the end to make this be a gift for him was because I'm such a warm person. I run so warm that I don't know if there would ever be cold enough weather that I would come to face with. I don't know if there would be ever weather cold enough for this to not make me overheat. So, but isn't it pretty? I like what I've done with the colors. I think that I did a really good job. Yeah, I think that if you wanted to replicate that or to do something similar, maybe waiting, like collecting, sorry, my foot's stuck in my skirt. You could probably make a less bright and multicolored one if you did like 2 shop updates of Newtoden. And got 100 grams of every color that they release. I think this is gonna be about 500 or 600 grams total in the end. So if you got like 6 or 7 different colors, 100 grams of each of them, you could probably make something pretty similar. And the way that I blended it is just I'm knitting 2 at a time, and I would just switch one of the strands for 3 rows, and then 3 rows later do 2 of the strands, which you can see better in like this section where I went from green to yellow. You can see that marl happening, but in the ones that are close, you really can't see the marl. Even in this one, which is quite stark as well. And for the background color, I did twice the length of time between the colors changing. I've spoken about the Semper sweater, the pattern that I'm working on, in great length in previous episodes, so I'll be brief in this one, which is that it is a really thoroughly described pattern. I think that the aim was to release a beginner-friendly raglan pattern that actually fits. Obviously mine, with the no drape and the thick color work, is maybe not the best usage of that pattern. Also, I'm not a beginner, so I don't need the thorough explanation. I actually find it to be quite hard to understand, especially like the short row descriptions. As someone who knew what was going on, I just didn't know what was happening in the short rows because there was so much in there. But if you're a beginner, if it's your first raglan, or if you like patterns like that, then it would probably be good. And all of the project pages that I've seen show that the pattern fits beautifully. So yeah, that's what I'd say about that. I think I was kind of harsh on it in the past, but now I'm sort of more aware that there are beginners and people who aren't beginners who just really love patterns that are that thorough. You might notice that my cat's not here, and he's not. I'm moving back to America in 2 days, and the Fergie has gone. He's arrived safely. He's in Philadelphia, sleeping in my office and making biscuits on my boyfriend, but I miss him so much. So he's not going to be making trouble in the background or foreground of this video, which is maybe a first. It's so sad. He's such a presence. Like when I leave, I say goodbye even though he's not here. And it's sad. Like there's no reason to come home because there isn't a little cat to feed. And I could just leave my front door open because it's not like he's going to escape. That's how it feels. But I'm gonna go over soon enough. I'm a bit emotional about leaving Edinburgh. It's not forever, but yeah, it's hard to leave the place that you love. So, but I think that it's important to go back to Philly for a while, and there are definitely things that I'm looking forward to about being there as well. I really wanted to get some of these projects. I wanted to get this done before moving, but in my brain frenzy that I have to get stuff done, I managed to psych myself out, and actually I've gotten nothing done. So, it is what it is. Sometimes that's just how it works. This is how I prepare the nudity for knitting it into this jumper. I make little balls of it. Some of them are held double, some of them are held single, and then I put them into these plastic bags. And then I really work from the plastic bags. And then when I deplete one color in the plastic bag, I'll go into my larger plastic bag where I keep the plates of nudity and wind off another little ball. So that's how it's been going, and it's been working really well. Just because I'm using a lot of little odds and ends. If you've used an unspun yarn, you know that it gets so hard to work with when the plate gets really small and it stretches out and gets all tangled. I decided to deal with all of that unpleasantness at the very beginning, wind up all of those stringy, weird plate cores into balls. And yeah, it's been nice not having to deal with that since then. So all of my nudity is here except for a couple plates of purple. So when I'm back, and I'm not gonna bring a lot of it over, I'm bringing some. So we're sort of coming to the end of my lots of nudity era, which, yeah, if I want more, I can always sign up and buy more, but I'm feeling good about having worked through so much of it. I've worked through a lot of it over the past year, which is really nice and sort of how it should work. Let's talk briefly about the Tessellated pullover. I haven't made very much progress on this. I brought it down to England to the funeral and I just didn't want to work on it. The yarn management was just a bit too much for me to want to deal with. But I did cast on the other sleeve and start knitting the cuff. I haven't got that much done of it, but here. Yeah, so I started knitting the cuff. the second cuff. And yeah, my mind has been in other places recently. I still love it. Still am going to finish it, but I just haven't worked on it that much in the past 2 weeks. It's funny because there was a while where I was not podcasting very frequently, and so I was always working on everything, but it's been about 2 weeks since I last recorded a video, and I just haven't really worked on it. Kind of crazy to me that 2 weeks ago I was down in England. Yeah. The funeral was very weird. What a weird time. I have a very loving and very odd family. And almost all of them live very close to each other and so know each other very well. And it's always a little bit stressful and weird to go and be there. I'm an only child, and I am the only child in the family. I always feel a little bit of culture shock with the big family energy. But yeah, it was good to see everyone. My grandmother was really the glue of the family, so I think everyone's a little bit worried about what's going to happen in the future. So yeah, who knows? This bag that I'm using, I love, and I'm sure I've shown it a lot of times and always talked about how it was so cheap and amazing. I think I paid like $2. But the fake leather is like separating from itself and starting to rip, which is a real shame. Because I love this bag. But you know, it's not like unusable yet, but it feels so delicate, and in the corners it's starting to rip. But yeah, so I wish it was made out of real leather so that it would stay nice forever. Okay, so not very much to tell you about the Tessellated. I'm sorry, but maybe next time, maybe not. Who knows? It is gonna get finished. Next, let's talk about these Stephen West socks that I've been knitting. I think that I had finished this when I last recorded an episode, and I have worked on the second one a little bit. Here it is. I've done 1 and a bit repeats. I messed something up at the beginning, but I felt pretty certain that you wouldn't be able to see it once I wasn't like right there, and I was right. You can't really see it. I have a cold right now. It's not as bad as any other cold that I've had recently, but I think I'm just like stressed with the move and, you know, packing up all of my stuff, and a bit emotional. I've gotten sick the past 2 times that I've traveled, so I think it's just immunocompromised and stress combined to be a cold whenever I have to get on a plane, which is quite annoying. But this one's really not as bad as the past few that I've had. So I'm on day 3 and I feel okay. So hopefully by Sunday, today's Friday, I'll feel at least not snotty. I'm not like that snotty, but I have a little bit of a runny nose. So sorry, back to the socks. I'm using this Woolly Mammoth fiber yarn in her sock yarn and John Arbin Exmoor sock. This is in the color Bouldering Clouds. It's like a very beautiful blue gray. And this, I don't remember the color, maybe something to do with berries. And it's really nice. This first sock flew off of my needles. I knit it in like 3 days, not even thinking about it. I was just loving every second of it. And the second sock I cast on I knit the ribbing at the funeral, and then I've kind of been, I don't know, I haven't really felt like working on it. But as I say in almost every episode when I talk about socks, I knit these a lot when I'm studying and working. So I'll work for whatever, 45 minutes or an hour, and then I'll knit for 10-15 minutes. And that helps me stay sort of able to work for longer if I take like good breaks. So that's why I've gotten the amount that I've done. That's why I've gotten done the amount that I have. I haven't been taking a lot of breaks when I've been studying recently, and not saying that as a negative or a positive thing. It just hasn't been the way that my mind has been wanting to work for the past few weeks. So yeah, it's not like nothing, but it's not flying off the needles in the way that the first sock did. I did a fish lips kiss heel on this, and I did one repeat with no patterning on the back. And this is just like on the long side. It fits. I probably could have done one less repeat and then knit a couple rounds plain, but I chose to make it on the longer side for comfort. So those are my year of socks. After this one, there's 2 single color socks, and I have a couple of yarns that I got from Woolly Mammoth that are gonna be perfect for the single color socks. Like there's this yellow, and I haven't found a single color that looks good with it, so I'm excited to use that for the next pair. Although my sock mojo has been a little bit lower recently. Really, the storm hood took over the times when I was going to be knitting on the socks. I found it so satisfying. At nighttime, I would pull out my plate of Nutritin and wind up like 2 or 3 little balls. And then during the day, the next day when I was on my break, I would just knit those balls up. And then that night I would wind up more for the next day. And I just got into a real like really satisfying little routine with that. So these are in the same category of project. I had previously thought that this was not a project that could be on the go because of the unspun wool, but with the winding, it was a project that was on the go. And this is in my Woolly Originals bag, which I love. It's one of my favorite things that I own. It's of the Scott Monument, which I can see a perfect view of out of my window. And when I was in the States, it made me think of home, and hopefully going back to the States, it will continue to make me think of home. I need to take a lem sip break. Okay, my final project I think is my most exciting project. It's definitely the thing, maybe I should have talked about this earlier in the video to improve my click-through rate. It's fine, it doesn't really matter. But this is like, I think, my most exciting project. It's definitely the one that's gotten the most work from me. So, and I'm planning on making an entire YouTube video about the process of this because I think that people will be interested in sort of seeing it as its own thing. And I recorded like choosing the colors and making the charts and everything. So it's been quite an intense and fun creative experience. On the way to Stockbridge, which is a little neighborhood in Edinburgh, there's a shop called Toast. And they also have an online website, and they always have the most gorgeous stuff in the window. And there's a jumper that's in the window. And every time I walk by, it makes me stop and look at it because it's so nice. I will insert a picture here. Okay, now you've seen it. And it's an expensive jumper, but as a knitter, I'm accustomed to spending money on jumpers, if you consider the money that I spend on wool. But as a knitter, I'm also accustomed to thinking I can make that myself. So I went in, I thought the jumper was gorgeous, and I knew that I could make it myself. And so I have done that. I began by going through my stash, and well, I also took some close-up pictures, like better than the ones on the website, of where the different sections were. Although I didn't try it on, which was so stupid. I should have just tried it on when I was in there. And then I pulled out my whole stash here, which isn't that big, but I mean, it's more than enough to make this project. And I wanted to stick with all of the same type of yarn. So I chose 100% wool just because most of my yarn is 100% wool and non-superwash treated. just because that's what I have the most in. And it was quite a loose gauge with a thick yarn, so I decided that I would not worry about yarn weight with the colors that I was pulling from my stash, because I was going to be combining and marling, and it would be fine. So the palette I settled on, the original jumper has a light color, a light neutral, a dark neutral, and then 3 colors, or red, yellow, and green. So I chose a light neutral, a dark neutral, and then I wanted to use this marled yarn. Where is it? So technically I have 3 neutrals, but this is one of my colors. And then my other 2 colors are this. Okay, my light color is this ball of knitting for all of heavy merino that I was sent by accident, plus this Jamieson's of Shetland, Jamieson and Smith, whichever one it is, cream, which is a more gray than this. That's my light color, because this is just the right thickness of what I was going for. My dark color I had originally done differently, but I ended up settling on a combination of these 3 yarns. This is a whole super soft in the color Jasper. This is a Jamieson and Smith. I don't know what color it is. It's the same as I'm using in my Tessellated. And then this is Pine in Jamieson's of Shetland, which I used in my Roosty vest. So holding these 3 together is what I'm using for the dark color, which ended up looking like this. It'll look different as well once it's blocked, because the host has the spinning oil, which is why I'm having the allergic reaction. And then as you can see from the rest of the sleeve, my other 2 colors are a pink and a red, which these 2 are from Biche Bouche, and it's the Le Petit Lamb's wool. So those are my 5 colors, sort of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I decided that I would start with the sleeves and use that as a bit of a gauge swatch. Oh, I'm working off of the pattern, the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta. I wanted a drop shoulder pattern in roughly an Aran weight gauge. Even though I'm kind of off drop shoulders right now, knitting them just because I've knit a few recently, the jumper in the store was a drop shoulder, so I wanted to do the same thing. So I decided to start with the sleeves because it was the easiest sort of color blocking to figure out, and I wanted to be able to measure my gauge off of something. So here's one sleeve. I posted about this on Instagram. And then the other sleeve is here. I was trying to follow the color placement assigned, like the green is this color and the yellow is this color, but I messed up in the sleeve, so it's not all the same. And I don't have unlimited quantities of all of these yarns, so it sort of ended up changing based on what I have, because this is a stash project, stash busting before I move. I'm not intending on buying any yarn for this project, please. So yeah, there's gonna be some funky stuff. I knit the front first so that the front would be better, and then the back, you know, what happens happens. So you might be thinking those sleeves are too short, and yes, they are. They are very short. I decided to stop here. There's another color coming for the sleeves, but I decided to call it here. Firstly, because I didn't know how wide the body was going to be, so I wasn't sure how long the sleeves needed to be, because yeah, it's sort of obvious. If the drop shoulder is here, then I only need like 5 rows for the sleeves, but if it's here, then I'll need more. And if it is long, I can always deliberately cuff these. So I have pretty good options. Did I already say I held the biche bouche 3 ways just through a long chain plying method? And I held, this marl is a yarn from South Ronaldsay or North Ronaldsay, one of the Ronaldseys, which is a famous island for its lamb meat because the sheep grow up eating only seaweed or mostly seaweed. And they have this yarn, they have it at Bee Inspired Fiber. I don't know where mine came from. I think that my dad might have bought it at a farmer's market and just put it in my drawer and didn't tell me about it because I'm pretty sure I didn't buy it. But it's got such an interesting hand feel. It's almost silky, but it's also quite prickly, if that makes sense. Like it feels like the fibers are longer, but a little bit coarser. It's really interesting to the touch. I don't know that much about the different breeds. Like I couldn't tell you like a Masham versus a whatever sheep by hand feel because I don't spin and I haven't knit with that much breed specific wool. But this is very interesting. I don't know what breed it is. But it's really nice. And it's a marl of 3 colors. So I knit the 2 sleeves. And now I think I've told you about all of the different wools. And I knit the front of the body. So here you go. You can see it. It's very curly. There's the back. So I cast on the back. I decided to incorporate the I-cord detail of the Harlow sweater from Kadri, designed by Kadri, because I really liked that. So I did the I-cord sort of, you know, the way that the color meant to match the colors. And then I knit the back only to where the shaping ended. Because my yarn quantities are going to be a little bit fudged and the back is not going to look the same as the front. Because yeah, the yarn, you know, I'm just doing, this is the nature of a stash project, I think. So, let me show you. The front is finished. I have a couple interesting things to tell you about it as well. So, I began with these 2 sections. This is supposed to be red and this is supposed to be pink if I was following the original, but I thought that I would run out of red. So I switched the 2 and I think that it looks good. I really like the way the pink looks with this dark marl. I made a chart for this art on a website. I just Googled make your own knitting chart and then eyeballed an arch and then followed that. I can flash a picture of that on the screen, although I can't imagine that my arch would be better than anyone else's arch. And then I don't know how far down the camera goes. So, oh, this is the first jumper that I've ever added bust shaping on. So here is, I followed a YouTube tutorial by, I don't remember, but I can link it down below. It was on a cardigan. I found it really useful just to explain sort of the basic idea of what you're even doing. And this is, so the bust shaping, you're adding a trapezoidal section into the jumper to make it longer in the front than in the back, because if you put a tape measure down your front and then place that same tape measure down your side alongside your bust, the one that goes over the bust is going to be a longer distance, and I don't mind a bit of riding up, but I have a large bust, so it gets kind of extreme. So I just wanted to try bust shaping, and I think that it worked really well. Here's where I placed my, like, the beginning of my short rows, and this color change is the end. So that's how long I did. I didn't like measure to check how many because I didn't care about it being perfectly straight at the end. I just wanted it to be a bit better than other jumpers I've made. So I'll let you know how it goes when I get there. I don't really know because I don't think I will until it's sewn up and has a back. So yeah, I'm pretty close to finishing this. It's going to have a really, really chunky neckline, and it will also have a back as well. So, but sadly, I don't think that I will finish this project before I move. It felt like I was going to finish one of these, and I'm actually going to finish neither of them, and I'm going to have to take both of them with me. So, you know, I can't dwell on it. It's kind of annoying, but I've been knitting on this like a maniac for a while, and I'll tell you a bit of technical information now, I guess. It's knit on size 5.5 millimeter needles, I think, or 6. Why don't I just check? 6.5. The ribbing is knit on 5.5. This is maybe like the biggest gauge jumper I've ever made. It's extremely satisfying. I can understand why people knit at this gauge. And I also kind of now understand how some people make so many things because they really go fast. It's very exciting. So yeah, it's really exciting. And I love the way the colors look together. I have to say, I like the original more. But I think that if I had purchased colors that I thought went well together and then done this, I would have liked my version more, if that makes sense. It's absolutely nothing against these colors. I think that they're gorgeous together. It's just, that's sort of the nature of working with what you have. It's not always exactly what you would think of. Like, I think it would be really beautiful with like a purple in it, but I just didn't have any purple. So yeah, I might make more of these when I'm done. And the arch got a little bit messed up because it was in the middle of my short row section, like this part. I don't think it will make that big of a difference. You might also notice that this is not cropped, which is kind of unusual for me because I usually knit cropped things. But I didn't think that this would work so well being cropped. So here's another ball of yarn from Stash that I'm going to continue the white section with when I finish that little nub that's run away of the cream. It's not the same color of white, but that's why I waited until the back and I finished the front with the colors that I knew all went together. And I'm gonna run out of this, so I'm gonna sub in this, which I think is close enough that it will be barely noticeable as a difference. So, this is only a couple more days of knitting, like maybe 5, because the back will take 3 and the neckline will take 2. And then sewing it up, I'm actually really looking forward to. And then it needs a good wash to get the spinning oil out and to set, you know, stop the stockinette roll and have it all beautiful. But hopefully that'll be done by my next episode. I'm so excited to show you. And I think I already said, but I'm making a video specifically about this for people who might be interested in that. Because, I don't know, one of the beautiful things about making your own clothes is that you can make things with what you have the way that you want them. I really like the pattern so far, the Winter's Pullover, if you're looking for a drop shoulder pattern at a pretty loose gauge. I have no complaints. And I think it's pretty good, pretty clear. As I said, I will link the bust darts tutorial that I followed in the description. Yeah, maybe I'll be wearing that next time you see me. I think I've got a fluffy in my eye. The first clue for the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along came out yesterday. I don't think I'm gonna start it until the plane ride, but it looks really nice. I'm pretty excited to knit that. Yeah, seems great. People are kind of freaking out about the number of ends. I'm not worried, you know. Weaving in ends is a part of life. You've got to enjoy the process, I think. I haven't bought any yarn in the past 2 weeks. That would have been absurd because I'm moving. But I did buy this Turkish spindle. I actually bought this about 3 weeks ago, but the first one that arrived was broken. It got broken in the post. I don't remember the name of the Etsy shop, but I can put it in the description. Because this is a very beautiful spindle. I'm not like an experienced spinner, although I have used a drop spindle before, but I wanted a lighter weight one that was more easily portable. And this is that. It's perfect. I did a little bit of spinning on the broken one. It was just one of the arms was splintered. It had gotten squished or something. And I was spinning up some Nutagen into a single ply so far, but I'd like to ply it. And I was having a lot of fun. The replacement spindle was sent in this bag of, whoa. So yeah, that's gonna be awesome to work with. Really, really awesome. And this is a beautiful little thing. So this is maybe a couple grams of wool. And yeah, a really fun little gadget, and it fits in my pencil case. So very portable. The other spindle I have is much heavier. So I was finding it very hard to make singles that weren't really thick. So I'm very happy to have the drop spindle. As for my knitting plans, obviously I'd love to finish this knitted in jumper. I'd love to finish this exciting Intarsia jumper. Those are my real 2 priorities, along with casting on the Stephen West MCal. Part of me was planning on knitting it on the plane, but I'm not totally sure if I'm going to do that. It seems like a manageable amount of knitting, which is nice. So maybe I'll knit that on the plane, maybe I won't. I've got quite a busy few days with the move, and it's a little bit of a emotional turmoil, as I think you might be able to tell with the moving and the getting back from the funeral. So I'm still loving my knitting. I have been battling moths, but it feels like it's finally kind of under control in time for me to leave, which, you know, I really didn't want to leave it as a problem, like an active problem. I've got moths in Philadelphia as well, so I feel a little bit desensitized to it, ready to take it on. And at least in Philly, it gets cold enough in the winter that I can put stuff outside to freeze, which was a challenging aspect of being here because it doesn't really get cold enough to freeze the moths. So I will start dealing with that probably as soon as I get back. And yeah, I'm happy to be leaving here with it fairly under control. I'm taking back not everything that I've knit this year, definitely, but a couple of key items, and my dad's letting me take a suitcase as one of his suitcases, so I get to take 2 suitcases to move back, which is very nice of him. I hope that you've had a really good 2 weeks. I hope you're enjoying the MCal if you're participating. If you check out my Instagram, I will post the MCal when I do it, and probably post this jumper when it's finished as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a really good day. Bye.